You are listening to the dailybreadproject.com. I am your host, Mr. Jonathan Rivera. Yeah, I just called myself Mr. I don't even know why. I am bringing you your daily light, daily nourishment, a dose of positivity to inoculate you from this negative world we're living in. I can't do this all by myself, so I'm trying my hardest to bring you some of the very best leaders I know. And I'm about to pop on right here. Let's see. Yes, he's here already. This guy's a real deal. We got a real champion here today. I'm going to bring him in, bring this live on Facebook, and we are going to rock with it. Let's get this thing going. Make sure Facebook is going to behave today. You better behave live, and then we'll rock into the light with you. Oh, okay. So it doesn't look like it's going to work that way. We'll try one other way, and if not, we'll record this thing and we'll bring it back another. We'll bring it back in recording time. Let's see. It didn't like going to my page, which we've been going to the page for the last couple days, but today seems like it might not work. I'm going to unmute you, Justin. It looks like it might go live. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you, John?
Pretty good. Come on, you got more than that. Dig deeper, man. Dig deeper.
You're right. You know, it's a little early, but no, I'm good, man. I'm doing good over here.
All right. It looks like we're gonna stream this thing live from my page. So if you're on a computer and you want to share it, it'll be on my personal profile since the page wasn't working, and we're gonna rock with this. Ain't nothing fancy around here. We're just gonna rap, and I'm gonna bring us into this thing. This is the dailybreadproject.com. We bring you daily positivity, daily light, and leadership. In fact, I like to share power, positivity, love, and leadership, and I can't do it by myself. I need to have guests to power up the show, and today I have a stud, Mr. Justin Atherton. Hopefully I didn't mess up your last name, from Confidence Unchained. What is up, my man?
How's it going, JR? Are you doing all right, man?
No, I'm doing better than all right. I'm here with you, bro. I'm here with you.
Oh, I appreciate the intro, man. I appreciate it, JR.
Yeah, I'm stoked that you're here, and I actually came up with an acronym for what we do here: bringing the light. And light is leadership in good and hard times. And so that's what makes the champions stand out from everything else. It's easy when times are good. It's easy to be positive and happy and upbeat. But when the market is falling apart, people can't go to work, and everybody thinks they're dying because they got no toilet paper, that's when the real leaders stand out. And you, my friend, are a real leader. So I'm happy that you're here.
I really like that. I like that acronym there. You know, I was having a conversation yesterday about being a leader in hard times. So it's very timely, but I definitely like that.
Dude, this is all I do. I sit around and name things.
I like it. I like it.
It's what I do. Apparently, it's one of my unique abilities, man. So let's talk about this. You are working your tail off right now because in addition to your coaching business, your leadership practice, you are also a police officer. Is that right?
Yes, sir. In the state of Texas. Yes, sir.
Bro, thank you for all the work you're putting in, because I've caught you on these mornings where you're like, damn, it is too early. I got to sleep. You're like not getting any sleep. So you're serving, and I respect that, man.
Yeah, I really, I appreciate that. I think the medical workers out there are really on the front line of this thing. We're just being the support right now and taking care of everything kind of in the background. But again, anybody that's out there right now being that essential personnel and having to leave the house on a daily basis, just make sure you're being safe and coming home and making sure that your family's being safe. But I got to give credit to all the medical personnel out there.
I love it, man. He's got a touch of humility, this guy. Respect, respect, man. So let's talk about this. This is where I want to start with you, is like, how do you find the power to do everything? Because you got to go out there, you got to do work, you got to take care of yourself, you got to take care of your clients. How are you digging deep and finding the power to get it all done?
You know what's interesting is I was asked that question yesterday because I was on another conference call after like 3 hours of sleep, and they're like, "Man, Justin, how are you doing this?" They're like, "I'd be falling apart," and my answer was just sheer willpower. If I say I'm going to do something or be somewhere, then I do it, and I stand behind that, and I believe that comes with having integrity to yourself, because if you can't keep your own word to yourself and the things that you do, how are you going to keep your word to anyone else?
I have to ask you about this because, I, and it's one of the reasons why we resonated. Like from the first minute we met, is like we both have that in common. But you just said it, and this is not the first time I hear it from you because we've been talking this week. You're like 3 hours of sleep. How the hell do you do it without taking care of yourself?
You have to take care of yourself. You, uh, Part of it is understanding your own body. I know that I sleep in 3 hour cycles, so I can get 3, 6, or 9. Anything that falls in between, I'm messed up. So it's like understanding. It's like, okay, I can. Right now I'm either going to get 3 or 5. Well, I better just get up after 3 and do some things. Then I can come back and take a nap at some point after I do a little bit of work. So you have to be able to understand your body, make sure you're fueling your body right. Whether it's, hey, I'm big on coffee. I wasn't when I was younger, but now like I'm into the whole the bulletproof coffee. And
Oh yeah.
it definitely gets you going, gets your mind, right early in the morning. So
Well, let's, and this is, I didn't even expect to go here, but everybody prepares their bulletproof a little bit different. What's your cocktail?
so it's the ghee, right? The extra clarified butter, MCT oil. I use Black Rifle Coffee. I love them. Super good company, military owned company. And I do the cold brewed away, so it brews overnight, and then I just add coconut milk to it and
Ooh,
hot water, and that's it.
fancy, fancy, fancy.
Yeah.
I'm always curious. Everybody has their own cocktail. I've got a couple different tweaks that I put into mine, but I have to have, that's the first thing in the morning. While I'm out walking, I'm drinking my coffee and getting powered up.
There
So
you go.
that's why I ask. I'm always curious what people are up to. So let's go into the positivity part, man, because you're a champion, and most champions have ways that they stay positive. So what are some of the things that you're doing with all the work, with all the crazy news going out there, trying to just take over your mind? How are you protecting yourself and staying positive?
So I've had this conversation before, and especially with my podcast hosts, we have a slightly different mentality about it. He's all into the positivity and really looking for those positive insights. I believe that we need to limit the negative influences that we expose
How do
ourselves
you
to.
do that?
So, number one, being aware of it, seeing what's out the news. You should not be watching the news 24 hours a day. Uh, on a regular basis, I limit myself to the news as much as possible. With my day job, I'm exposed to the news. I kind of live it. So if I can go a long time without hearing about the news or watching it, great. I think that's a good thing. There's so many different things. It could be negative people in your life. You have to realize like how you feel after you interact with someone, and do you want to continually expose yourself to that?
I want to stop you right there because we just had this conversation this week. And so it's kind of fun to be thinking about this because it's so fresh. Limit your exposure to negative people.
Hmm.
What if you are the negative person?
Oh wow. Well then, hopefully you can realize that. There was a great concept that was brought up to me. I guess it's an old proverb. I don't want to quote it exactly where it's at, but it's like, what do you walk around with in your cup? Like whatever spills out of your cup, like when you get rattled, that's what you carry around with you all day long. Is it joy and happiness, or is it bitterness and anger? And so when you realize yourself that every time you get rattled, you just go off the handle, hey, you're the problem. You're the common denominator in all your failed relationships. You're the common denominator in any bad thing that's ever happened to you. And so if you can realize that and really get some self introspective work on yourself and go, wait a minute, am I causing all of this? And I think that's tough for a lot of people to do
Why?
because we don't want to admit it. We don't want to admit that we're the problem. And you talk about leadership, and if you're thinking about like being the driving force behind any team, you have to work on yourself first. Leadership comes from working on the individual first and then being able to give that to the people around you.
Yeah. Yeah. I dig it, man. I and the reason I asked is because I was with you. Like your story of where you hit rock bottom and came back up, and you realized it came from inside. That's
Mm-hmm.
why that just hit me. Like, what if you're the problem? We're
Yeah,
all our own biggest problems. Like,
exactly.
and there's no way around that. But I like the idea of working on you, and I'm a fan of personal development. I'm a fan of consistent growth, and I believe if you're not growing, you're dying. So what are
Mhm.
some of the things that you do to consistently grow?
So constantly absorbing new information, like listening to new ideas, even if it's outside of my scope. Um, I
Even if it's outside, or especially if it's outside?
I- you know uh, there's it's both. You need to make sure that you are expanding yourself to knowledge that you would have never seen before, things you've never heard of or understood. Things that maybe you're thinking in ideas like, no, I'm not too keen on that. I think you and I mentioned this, when we talked the other day, like the books that like Eckhart Tolle has written, The Power of Now and A New Earth, I believe is his other one. Definitely not some books I would have read, 10 years ago. They're on the hippie-ish side, if you want to quote it. And, you know, but reading it and looking for a different perspective and going like, okay, like I get what he's saying. I would word it differently myself, but I can see his perspective and it's good information. um, but don't restrict yourself, to be like, oh, I only read these type of books, I only listen to these type of podcasts, I only do this. No, you have to expand yourself. So I guess to clarify, I think you're right. You especially, go outside your normal scope. Talk to people you don't normally talk to. Anyone that knows me, I talk to everybody.
Tell
Like,
us about the exercise you do in the elevator. I love that.
yeah. So, and I did get it from one of Eckhart Tolle's books. He in his book he talks about when you're at a bus stop waiting for a bus, don't be the person waiting for a bus. Everyone knows what that looks like. You're standing there, you're looking on your phone, you're looking down the lane, like, is the bus here yet? Is the bus here yet? So when you're in those moments where you automatically conform to the situation, you need to flip it. You need to realize that you're being automatic and turn it into something different. So for me, I like to talk to people in an elevator because what is a person in an elevator look like? They're quiet. They're looking at the numbers. They're facing the front door. That's what a person in an elevator looks like. I will face the opposite way. I'm not going to I'll look at the people, and I'll strike up a conversation. We've got like 15, 30 seconds till we get to the next floor, right? I'll start talking to them, and it makes people uncomfortable. And I, for me, just because I like reading body language and facial expressions, I do get a little bit of a kick out of it because the reactions that people get, like, why is this guy talking to me? We're in a damn elevator. This
You
isn't
know the
normal.
rules.
Yeah, he's breaking the rules of elevator etiquette. But for me, it's practice of putting myself outside of my comfort zone. And, this is something I tell my clients. You need to practice all of these skill sets, making yourself uncomfortable when it doesn't matter. So when you get into a situation where it does count, where it does matter, then, it's easy.
Muscle memory at that point, right?
Exactly. Get those reps in.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
I just recorded this morning's story was about the law of reps. That's where power and mastery comes from, is
I
getting your
believe it.
reps in.
Yeah,
We all do.
preparation is
Yeah.
key.
Yeah. I mean, anybody that's achieving anything knows that's the thing to do. So cool. Let's let's talk about leadership a little bit.
Okay.
You have always been a leader. You've always risen to the top of wherever you are. You're one of those achievers. So right now, as things seem a little different, a little crazy maybe, how has your leadership changed?
Hmm. Well, I just have to say, like, with the people around me, just being that solid force, because there's a lot of people out there freaking out. And so if you can be the person that's cool, calm, and collected, it brings other people to that level and go like, it's almost, a psychology thing about like looking for social proof, right? So if you're freaking out, then guess what? People around you are going to freak out too. But if you can keep a level head, people, that respect you and that have, trust in you will look to you and go, okay, maybe it's not so bad, and then they can calm down and they can keep a level head as well. So if you have that influence over other people, that are around you, that you've built that trust with, that rapport with, learning to control your emotional reactions and just, keep yourself level. Like, I was having this conversation last night, there's not a lot of stuff that surprises me. When you go into a situation, expecting the worst, but hoping for the best, there's nothing that can surprise you because you're ready for it all. So, and when you can go into a situation like that and the people around you can see, hey, okay, we can roll with the punches and whatever's happening, you know, they're good with it, and it calms them down. So I feel like that's been my strength through all this, and just being that force to, it's not so bad. Like, we'll figure it out, right?
Let's talk about that. You said to keep your emotions in check, but you and I had a discussion earlier this week that emotions aren't totally bad. We think alpha male, no emotions, but you were giving me the other side of that, when emotions serve you. Can you share a little of that with us?
Yeah, my thoughts on emotions, and I've done a lot of research on emotional intelligence and the seven universal emotions. And when I talk about emotion, I'll go back to me like 5, 7 years ago. I used to believe that I could control every emotion from coming up. And if I ever let an emotion come out, whether it was sadness or anger or fear, then I was weak and then I failed. I'm like, dang it, I got sad there. I didn't control that enough, and I'm like, then I get mad at myself. Well, science says otherwise. There's a lot of research that has been done that the emotions that we feel are not, they happen before the conscious brain picks up on it. It's linked to having like a physiological response. We actually feel our emotions in our body before our conscious brain actually picks up on it. So there's a lot of science out there. We cannot control the emotions that come up in any given circumstance. What we can control are the reactions. And so what you and I talked about the other day, as I don't think that there are anything as good or bad emotions. It's whether or not that emotion is useful in the context of your environment. And I think there's several different examples of this. Probably the one that we've all dealt with is, on the freeway. You're driving down the freeway, just minding your own business, and all of a sudden someone cuts you off. Well, it's almost like a dual thing here. So the fear response kicks in. You slam on the brakes, you swerve out of the way, you miss the accident. So that emotion was useful. You didn't think about hitting the brakes and swerving. The emotion, or the emotion of fear, kicked in, and you reacted before you could think about it. Okay. So that fear in that moment was useful. But what comes after the fear? the anger. You inconsiderate so-and-so, like flipping people
Inconsiderate,
off.
come on.
Yeah.
You MF.
Yeah, you're right. I was toning it down for your show. But that anger kicks in, right? And so we're so angry that this person had the audacity to come in our lane, and they're so, inconsiderate, and they don't care about what I'm doing here. So that anger kicks in. Is that anger useful in that moment when you're driving down the freeway? No, it's not. But there could be moments in your life that anger could be useful. A situation where maybe you have to defend your family. You're getting mugged. And that fear, that anger, they kick in, and you're able to fight off your attacker. Guess what? That fear and anger were both useful in that situation. So it's really about the context of the situation to determine whether or not those emotions were useful. Just like it's not useful to be happy at a funeral. If you're in the back giggling, guess what? Happiness is not a good, it's not a good area for that. The social, norm, you're breaking that. So in that moment, happiness would not be a useful emotion at a funeral. So it's all about the context.
I love the happiness at a funeral, and what a picture that paints, looking like a
Right?
clown in front of the casket. My gosh. So let's switch gears just a little bit here, and let's talk about the future and what's next. What are you most excited about right now? What is the biggest opportunity that you're seeing?
You know, obviously, a lot of the businesses are going virtual. And I've had this conversation with people. It almost seems like this crisis that we're in right now is expediting a lot of that. We've talked about businesses in the past that are slowly moving to being more virtual, and depending on technology. I think this is really going to expedite that process and really ramp that up. Um, for me and my business, most of my clients that I talk to it is virtual already. So I'm glad to be ahead of the curve. I have clients across the U.S. and we either talk on the phone or we talk here on Zoom like this. And I think more people will be all right with that, because I have come across people in the past that were like, well, I want a coach or a consultant that, like, in person.
It's a
I want
thing.
some. You're right. It is. People have said that, and it's like, okay, that's fine. Well, good luck to you finding someone in your area. If I have some information, I'll pass it on to you. Um, but I think there will be a lot more people that were resistant to technology and using this type of medium that will have to conform to it, and it will bring a lot more people into that type of marketplace. So a lot of businesses, you see it already. People are adapting, businesses are adapting. If you're not adapting, you're failing. And this is really going to push people to the limits of what they can do. um, so I'm excited for that. I'm excited for it bringing more people into the marketplace, and this being you know part of everyday life. Having these conversations, like, how many of us have, like, had to reach out to family on the computer and have, like, this FaceTime type talk. I would talk to my parents for the first time on this, the other day. It's,
And they knew how to use it?
they were kind of off centered, off camera. They're kind of like
Looking
way
up
off to
their
the
nose.
side. Yeah. So that they're working it out, but but that's something for them that they may have not have done before. So it's bringing new people into this type of medium, and I think that's great.
Yeah, yeah. I was actually talking to someone who works with attorneys yesterday, and I'm telling her, "Wow, you got a big opportunity right now to do virtual events and that kind of thing, kind of switch
Mhm.
from what they're used to." She's like, "I don't know, they're slow adopters," and I'm like, "You got to lead the way, baby.
Yeah.
You got to take them there so they understand that this is a new normal." And that's an interesting perspective, and I'll get your thoughts on that. I had Katie Danger on the show a couple weeks ago, and she talked about people sitting around waiting for life to get back to normal. I mean, is this? What would you say to those people? Do you think that life will get back to normal?
I I I really believe that the world is going to be forever changed by this in some aspects. Um, will we get close to what we were before? We all hope so, right? But we have those cognitive biases that we have. It'd be like, hey, this is always going to be this way because that's the way it's always been. The normalcy bias, right? Like, yeah, life is just normal. It's going to keep on this way. No, we have to adapt. And like I mentioned, the businesses that aren't adapting, that are waiting for things to get back to normal, they're going to fail. And all the businesses right now that are taking this opportunity to go, hey, this is our time for some radical change in the things that we do. Those are the ones that are going to succeed and move forward. And for the individual, you have to, be prepared for that. Again, so it's about expecting the worst and hoping for the best. So we can hope that we're going to go back to normal. I don't think that's realistic, but we have to be prepared that this right now is the new normal, and we'll fall somewhere in the middle. But if you're prepared for both sides, you're ready for anything. But if you're one of those just sitting around, wait, nope, nope, life's going to pass you by, and you're going to keep on hoping.
Gonna die hoping.
Yeah.
Cool. So, uh, when you're looking back at this time, 5 years from now, reflecting, what do you want people to remember you for while this was all going on?
Hmm. I think I'll go back to that idea of being that level-headed person, like not freaking out, not, you know, ig- thinking that the sky is falling. It's like we can figure this out. Like whatever it is, anyone that's been around through different times, like 2008 when the crash happened,
2001.
9/11. We dealt with those things and moved forward, and was the world changed for at least a certain period of time? Yes, it was. um and we seem to have a very short memory when it comes to some of those things that we forget about. But this will pass too, right? To Eventually we'll forget that this happened, and we'll just go on with our lives, like however we come out of this, with whatever the new normal is. That's the term everyone's throwing around, right? The new normal. We don't know what that means, but we like to say it because it sounds cool. So looking back, I want the people that are around me and my clients to go, Justin was the rock that stood through that time and didn't waver what he was doing. I haven't changed anything that I'm doing other than business plans. I got to do more virtual stuff, the in-person retreats, or the face-to-face has to be limited. But other than that, still keeping true to what I'm doing and keep putting that information out there, because we can still have a lot of personal growth during some tough times.
In fact, I would say that this is a time for the most personal growth.
Yeah.
So, as we are coming up to the end here, i- is there anything you want to say or want to share in closing?
I would say, I like what you said there. This is an opportunity for everyone to really see where their weaknesses are, because this is exposing them. This crisis is exposing everyone's weaknesses. Really look at yourself, because guess what? You're the common denominator in all your failures. And so look at that, see the areas that you need to improve, and go all in for that. We're being forced to be, with our families, all day long, every day. Is there some areas you need to work on there? Are you able to work from home efficiently? Are you able to motivate yourself? Because outside motivation is a whole different conversation. It really needs to be internally motivated. Are you able to drive yourself to do the things that you need to do every day without having someone crack the whip over you? So figure out what your weaknesses are, and work on that and come out of this with a new skill set, with a new mindset, with a new tool and technique to use moving forward.
Love it, man. Love it. All right, Justin Atherton, Confidence Unchained. You are the man, brother. Thank you, thank you, thank you for bringing the light. This is a wrap for the dailybreadproject.com. We come to you live on Facebook daily, and you can find us in iTunes and Google. If anybody wants to connect with Justin, you can look for him online or just reach out to me and I'll connect you. Love you guys. Mean it. Thank you, Justin. And I'll hit you up on Facebook in just a second, brother.
All right. Thanks.
All right, ciao.